The massive trading station Nexus Alpha floated in the void between three star systems. Ships from across the galaxy docked here every day to trade goods and information. Today, the most important meeting in human history was about to take place. President Marcus Webb stood at the viewport of his diplomatic vessel, the Harmony. He was 58 years old, with silver hair and calm green eyes. For 12 years, he had led Earth's government with wisdom and patience. The people trusted him because he always chose peace over conflict. "Sir, we're receiving docking clearance," said Captain Victoria Stone. She was his security chief, a former military pilot with short black hair and sharp blue eyes. She had protected 3 presidents before Marcus and never lost anyone under her watch. "Thank you, Victoria," Marcus replied, adjusting his formal black suit. In his briefcase were the most important documents in human history, treaties that would make Earth a full member of the Galactic Trade Federation. He had spent 3 years negotiating these agreements. The docking bay of Nexus Alpha was enormous, filled with ships of every shape and size. As they walked through the corridors, Marcus noticed how other species watched them. Some aliens looked curious about the humans. Others seemed worried or even angry. Ambassador Kreltar waited for them at the conference room entrance. He was 9 feet tall, with thick grey skin and 6 arms. His species, the Vorthak, had controlled galactic trade for centuries. "President Webb," he said in perfect English, though his voice sounded like grinding metal, "welcome to Nexus Alpha. The Federation Council is eager to hear your proposal." "Thank you, Ambassador," Marcus replied. "I hope today marks a new chapter in human-alien relations." The meeting room was circular with a holographic display in the center. Representatives from 8 different alien species sat around the table. Marcus recognized them from his studies: the insect-like Zephyrians with their glowing eyes, the plant-based Chlorans who communicated through color changes, and the energy beings called Luminals who existed in special containment suits. Marcus opened his briefcase and activated his holographic display. "Honored representatives, humanity comes before you in friendship. We offer our technology, our resources, and our commitment to peaceful cooperation." The aliens exchanged glances. Chancellor Vraxt, leader of the Federation Council, leaned forward. He was a Vorthak like Kreltar, but even larger, with scars across his grey hide. "President Webb, your species has grown very quickly. In just 200 years, humans have spread to 47 worlds. Your technology advances faster than any species we have seen." "We explore because we are curious," Marcus explained. "We build because we want to create a better future for everyone. Earth is willing to share our knowledge with all peaceful species." "That is exactly the problem," said Councillor Ithara, a Zephyrian whose compound eyes glowed red. "Humans learn too fast. You adapt too quickly. Your military grows stronger every year. Soon, you will be more powerful than all of us combined." Victoria felt her hand move toward her weapon. This was not going as planned. The tension in the room was thick enough to cut. Marcus kept his voice steady. "We have never attacked another species. All our conflicts have been in self-defense against pirates and raiders. We want to be partners, not conquerors." Chancellor Vraxt stood up slowly. "President Webb, the Federation has made a decision. Humanity's growth must be stopped before it threatens the balance of power in the galaxy. However, we are not unreasonable. We will not destroy your species." "What are you saying?" Marcus asked, though he was beginning to understand. "We only need to remove Earth's leadership," Vraxt explained coldly. "Without you, humans will fight among themselves for control. They will be weak and divided, easy to manage." The lights suddenly went out. In the darkness, energy weapons fired with deadly precision. Victoria lunged toward the president, but a plasma bolt caught her in the shoulder, spinning her around. She crashed into a wall as more shots lit up the room. When the emergency lighting came on, Marcus was on the floor. Blood spread from a massive wound in his chest. Victoria crawled to him, ignoring her own injury. "Mr. President," she whispered, lifting his head gently. Marcus looked up at her with fading eyes. "Victoria," he said quietly, "get word to Earth. Tell them this was planned from the beginning. Tell them humanity will not bow to murderers." "You're going to be okay, sir," Victoria said, but they both knew it was not true. "Promise me," Marcus said, his voice growing weaker. "Promise me our people will remember who we really are. When cornered, humans don't surrender. We fight back twice as hard." "I promise, sir," Victoria said. President Marcus Webb, Earth's greatest diplomat and champion of peace, died 30 seconds later. Chancellor Vrax looked down at them without emotion. "Broadcast this across the galaxy. Let every species see what happens to those who grow too powerful. The humans will surrender within days." Victoria looked up at the alien leader, her eyes filled with pain and something far more dangerous. "You have no idea what you just did," she said quietly. "You killed the one person who could have kept humanity peaceful. Now you'll see what we're really like when someone murders our family." The aliens laughed, but their laughter sounded nervous. They had just made the greatest mistake in galactic history. The news reached Earth 6 hours later. Every screen on the planet showed the same horrific image: President Marcus Webb lying dead on the floor of Nexus Alpha, while alien representatives stood over his body. The Galactic Federation had broadcast the execution to every world as a warning. Vice President Diana Cross was in her office reviewing colony reports when her aide burst through the door. "Madam Vice President, you need to see this immediately," he said, his face pale with shock. Diana watched the broadcast and felt her world collapse. Marcus was not just her president, he was her closest friend. They had worked together for 15 years to build a peaceful future for humanity. Within minutes, Diana was in the Crisis Command Center, buried deep beneath Geneva. Military leaders filled the room, their faces grim with barely controlled anger. Fleet Admiral Thomas Kane stood at the main display, his weathered face hard as granite. He was 65 years old and had spent 40 years in space, but he had always believed in diplomatic solutions. That belief had just died with Marcus Webb. "How many of our people survived?" Diana asked. "Only Captain Stone," Admiral Kane replied. "She's aboard the rescue ship Defiant, heading home. The aliens wanted her alive to deliver their message." "What do we know about their military capabilities?" Dr. Rachel Torres stepped forward. She was Earth's chief weapons researcher, a brilliant woman who had spent her career developing defensive technologies. "We've been studying their ships and weapons for years, Madam President. They are powerful, but they have a critical weakness." "Which is?" "They've been at peace for 3 centuries, explained General Marcus Reed, head of Earth's colonial defense forces. "They've forgotten how to fight real wars. Their tactics are outdated, their strategies predictable. Meanwhile, every human child learns military history. We've been fighting each other for thousands of years." Diana sat in the president's chair, feeling the weight of humanity's future on her shoulders. "Admiral Kane, how quickly can we mobilize?" "Our fleet? Our exploration ships can be converted to warships in 4 months, Kane replied. "We have 300 vessels spread across 47 colonies. But, Madam President, we're talking about war against the entire galaxy." "They made that choice when they murdered Marcus," Diana said quietly. "Get me Captain Stone." The communication screen flickered, showing Victoria Stone in a medical bay. Her left arm was in a sling, but her eyes burned with determination. "Madam President, I need to tell you exactly what happened." Victoria's report confirmed their worst fears. The Federation had planned Marcus's assassination from the beginning. It was not a peace meeting. It was an execution designed to terrify humanity into submission. Captain Stone, Diana said. "I need to know your honest assessment. Can we win this?" Victoria was quiet for a moment. "Madam President, I've served on 50 different worlds. I've met aliens who can live for 1,000 years and others who can bend metal with their minds. But I've never met anyone like humans. We don't break under pressure. We adapt. We overcome. They just made the mistake of turning our grief into fury." Diana stood up. Around the room, every officer was watching her. The fate of humanity hung on her next words. "Dr. Torres, begin immediate conversion of all exploration vessels to combat configuration. General Reed, activate all colonial militias. Admiral Kane, recall every ship to our home systems." "Yes, Madam President," they replied in unison. "And one more thing," Diana added, her voice carrying across the room. "Send a message to every human colony, every research station, every mining operation in space. Tell them President Webb is dead. Tell them we know who killed him. Tell them it's time to show the galaxy what happens when someone attacks our family." The transformation began immediately. On Mars, the massive orbital shipyards that had been building colony vessels switched to producing warships. On Luna, weapons, factories that had been closed for decades roared back to life. In the asteroid belt, mining operations began harvesting metals for armor and ammunition. But the most important change was in the hearts of humanity itself. Marcus Webb had been beloved across all colonies. His murder united humans in a way nothing else could have. Old rivalries between Earth and the outer colonies vanished overnight. Corporate executives who had competed for decades began sharing resources. Military officers who had disagreed on everything found common purpose. Captain Stone's rescue ship, the Defiant, was the first to reach Earth. As it docked with Luna Station, crowds gathered to honor the fallen president and the woman who had tried to save him. Victoria stepped off the ship wearing her dress uniform despite her injuries. "Captain Stone," Admiral Kane said as he met her, "what are your orders?" Victoria looked through the viewport at Earth, her blue and green surface unmarked by war. Soon, that peace would be shattered, but humanity would survive because that was what humans did. "Admiral," she said, "prepare for the largest military mobilization in human history. The Federation thinks they killed our spirit when they killed our president. They're about to learn they only made us angry." In the depths of space, alien sensors began detecting unusual activity around human worlds. Ships were moving, factories were producing, weapons were being built. The Federation Council received these reports with growing unease. Chancellor Vraxt had expected humanity to surrender within days. Instead, they seemed to be preparing for war. "Perhaps we should have killed them all," Councillor Yathara suggested nervously. "Too late for that now," Vraxt replied. "Ready our fleets. If the humans want a war, we will give them one they will never forget." But as the alien fleets began to mobilize, they made a crucial error. They were preparing to fight the humans they thought they knew, peaceful explorers and traders. They had no idea they were about to face something far more dangerous, humanity united in righteous fury. 3 months after President Webb's assassination, the transformation of humanity's space fleet was complete. What had been a collection of exploration and trading vessels was now the most advanced military force the galaxy had ever seen. Admiral Kane stood on the bridge of the new flagship Retribution, watching as hundreds of ships took formation around them. Each vessel had been rebuilt from the inside out. Cargo holds now contained torpedo bays. Scientific laboratories had become command centers. Peaceful exploration ships had become instruments of war. "Admiral, all fleet commanders are reporting ready," said Commander Lisa Park, his new tactical officer. She was young but brilliant, having graduated top of her class from the Naval Academy just 2 years before. "Thank you, Commander," Kane replied. "Open a channel to all ships." Throughout the fleet, 10,000 screens showed the same image: Admiral Kane's weathered face, calm but determined. Behind him, the bridge of the Retribution hummed with quiet efficiency. "Citizens of Earth and her colonies," Kane began. "3 months ago, aliens who called themselves our friends murdered President Marcus Webb in cold blood. They did this because they feared humanity's potential. They thought killing our leader would make us weak and divided." On ships throughout the fleet, human faces watched their admiral with growing intensity. "They were wrong," Kane continued. "The murder of President Webb has not weakened us. It has awakened something in humanity that has slept for too long. Today we begin Operation Starbreak. We go to reclaim human honor and show the galaxy that no one attacks our family without consequences." The cheers that erupted across the comm channels were deafening. These were not professional soldiers looking for glory. These were ordinary humans, scientists, engineers, traders, farmers from the colonies, who had volunteered to fight for their murdered president. Captain Stone, now recovered from her injuries, commanded the fast attack ship Vengeance. Her crew was made up entirely of volunteers from Nexus Alpha's survivor list. Humans who had been on the station during the assassination and had witnessed the murder firsthand. "Captain," her navigation officer reported, "we're receiving intelligence. Updates from our deep space scouts. The information was disturbing. The Galactic Federation had assembled the largest military force in their history. Over 2,000 alien warships were converging on the Kepler system, humanity's newest colony. They plan to destroy it as an example to the rest of human space. They want to repeat what they did to President Webb," Stone said quietly. "Murder innocents to send a message." But the Federation had made a critical error. Their intelligence about human military capabilities was 3 months old, from before the transformation began. They expected to face the same peaceful exploration fleet they had always known. Dr. Rachel Torres had worked around the clock to revolutionize human weapons technology. Drawing on research that had been theoretical for decades, she had created plasma cannons that could punch through any known armor. Her new torpedo designs used antimatter warheads, weapons so powerful that even she was frightened by what she had built. "The aliens have superior numbers," she explained to the fleet commanders during their final briefing, "but our weapons are now more advanced than anything in their arsenal. More importantly, their battle tactics haven't changed in 3 centuries. They fight like they're still fighting each other. Formal, predictable, honorable." General Reed leaned forward. "And we fight like humans, fast, unpredictable, and absolutely ruthless when our family is threatened." The human fleet reached the edge of the Kepler system just as the alien armada arrived from the opposite direction. The Federation force was massive, 2,000 ships representing 8 different species. Their flagship was the Eternal Dominion, a Vorthak dreadnought 5 kilometers long. Chancellor Vraxt stood on its bridge, confident in his overwhelming advantage. "Open communications with the human fleet," he ordered. Admiral Kane's image appeared on the alien view screen. Behind him, the bridge of the Retribution looked calm and professional. "Admiral Kane," Vrax said, "you are outnumbered 6 to 1. Surrender now, and we will allow your colonists to live. Continue this foolishness, and we will destroy every human world until your species learns its place." Kane was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was deadly calm. "Chancellor Vraxt, you made a mistake 3 months ago. You killed a good man who wanted nothing but peace. Now you threaten our families again. Your president's death was necessary to maintain galactic stability," Vraxt replied coldly. "No," Kane said, "it was murder. And now you're going to learn what happens when you murder a human being." The communication ended. In the silence that followed, both fleets prepared for battle. The aliens attacked first, launching wave after wave of conventional energy weapons. Their tactics were exactly as predicted: Formal battle lines, coordinated volleys, predictable maneuvers. They fought like they were conducting a military exercise. The human response was chaos incarnate. Captain Stone's Vengeance dove through the alien formation at impossible speed, her new engines leaving trails of plasma in the void. Her antimatter torpedoes struck 3 Federation ships before they could react, vaporizing them in brilliant flashes of light. The Retribution and her battle group hit the alien left flank like a sledgehammer, their plasma cannons tearing through. Shields that had never faced such concentrated firepower. Alien commanders watched in shock as their most powerful warships were crippled by vessels they had dismissed as converted cargo haulers. But the real surprise came from humanity's smallest ships, fast attack craft built from mining shuttles, and racing yachts swarmed through the alien formation like angry wasps. They were too small and fast for the Federation's massive weapons to target effectively, but their new torpedo systems could cripple ships 10 times their size. Within the first hour of battle, the Federation had lost 300 ships. The humans had lost 17. "This is impossible," Councillor Ithara transmitted to the Eternal Dominion. "Our intelligence said they were peaceful explorers." "Our intelligence was wrong," Vraxt replied grimly. "These are not the humans we thought we knew." He was right. These were humans pushed beyond their breaking point. These were a species that had spent millennia fighting wars against themselves, now united against a common enemy. These were the descendants of warriors and survivors, and they had finally remembered what they were capable of. The battle raged for 6 hours. When it ended, the Federation fleet was in full retreat, leaving behind nearly half their ships as burning wreckage. The human fleet had suffered minimal losses. As the alien survivors limped away, Admiral Kane broadcast a message that would be heard across the galaxy. "This is Admiral Thomas Kane of the Human Defense Fleet. We did not start this war, but we will finish it. Any species that stands with the Federation against humanity will share their fate. Any species that remains neutral will be left in peace. But mark this well. The murder of President Marcus Webb will be avenged." The message reached every world, in the galaxy within hours. For the first time in 3 centuries, the Federation's power had been broken in open battle. And humanity, the species they had tried to crush, had done it. The galaxy would never be the same. The victory at Kepler System sent shockwaves across the galaxy. For 300 years, the Galactic Federation had been the supreme power among the stars. Now, a species they had tried to intimidate had shattered their greatest fleet in a single battle. Jin. On the Federation capital world of Vorthax Prime, emergency council sessions ran day and night. Chancellor Vraxt paced the Great Hall, while his advisors argued loudly in a dozen different languages. "How is this possible?" demanded Councillor Ithara, her insect wings buzzing with agitation. "Our intelligence report said humans were peaceful traders and explorers." "Our intelligence was 3 months old," replied General Krax, the Federation's military commander. "We underestimated their ability to adapt. When we killed their leader, we did not break their spirit. We forged it into something harder than any metal." Ambassador Kreltar, who had survived the battle at Nexus Alpha, spoke quietly from his seat. "I was there when President Webb died. I saw the look in Captain Stone's eyes. We did not just kill their leader, we killed their hope for peace. Now all that remains is their hunger for justice." The debate was interrupted by urgent communications from across the galaxy. Human fleets were moving everywhere. Fast strike. Groups were hitting Federation supply lines. Massive battle fleets were advancing on key strategic systems. Most terrifying of all, human forces were approaching worlds that had been Federation strongholds for centuries. Admiral Kane had divided humanity's forces into 12 battle groups, each commanded by officers who had proven themselves at Kepler. Captain Stone led the fastest group, specializing in lightning strikes against Federation logistics. Commander Park commanded the newest ships, equipped with experimental weapons that Dr. Torres had developed. Each group had a specific mission in Kane's grand strategy. The Federation tried to respond, but their forces were scattered and demoralized. Species that had been Federation members for generations began to question whether they were on the winning side. Some began to send secret messages to human commanders, offering information in exchange for protection. 3 weeks after Kepler, Captain Stone's task force arrived at the Nexus Alpha trading station. The massive structure where President Webb had been murdered still floated in space, but now it was defended by a Federation fleet of 500 ships. "Captain," her tactical officer reported, "we're receiving a transmission from the station commander. He wants to negotiate." Stone's face was grim as the alien commander appeared on her screen. It was Admiral Thektar, a Vorthak military leader known for his ruthless tactics. "Captain Stone," he said, "I know why you are here, but if you attack this station, thousands of innocent civilians will die. Many of them are from your own species, human traders and diplomats who were here when the war began." Stone was quiet for a moment. Around her, the bridge crew waited for her decision. They all knew what this place meant to her. This was where President Webb had died in her arms. This was where the war had begun. "Admiral Thektar," she said finally, "you're holding our people as human shields. That tells me everything I need to know about Federation honor." "I am trying to prevent unnecessary bloodshed," the alien replied. "No," Stone said, her voice hard as steel. "You're trying to hide behind innocent people because you're afraid to face us in honest battle. But I have a better idea." What happened next became legend throughout human space. Instead of attacking the station, Stone broadcast on all frequencies, not just to the Federation fleet, but to every civilian on Nexus Alpha. "Attention all civilians on Nexus Alpha," her voice echoed through the station's corridors. "This is Captain Victoria Stone of the Human Defense Fleet. In exactly 1 hour, Federation military forces on this station will surrender unconditionally, or we will board and take it by force. All civilians, human and alien, have 1 hour to evacuate to the lower levels where you will be safe." The panic on the station was immediate, but something unexpected happened. Human civilians began helping alien families reach safety. Traders who had been enemies for months worked together to protect children and elderly. In the face of approaching battle, common decency overcame political hatred. Admiral Thektar watched this display of human character with growing unease. These were not the savage conquerors Federation propaganda had described. These were people who would risk their own lives to protect innocent aliens. Exactly 1 hour later, Stone's Marines began boarding Nexus Alpha. The Federation defenders fought bravely, but they were facing humans who had trained for this specific mission for months. Every corridor, every junction, every defensive position had been studied and planned for. The battle for the station lasted 6 hours. When it ended, the Federation fleet had surrendered and Nexus Alpha was under human control. But more importantly, not a single civilian had been harmed. As Stone walked through the corridors where President Webb had died, she was joined by hundreds of human civilians who had been trapped on the station for months. Many were crying, not from fear, but from relief. "Captain," one of them said, "we never thought we'd see Earth forces again. We heard President Webb was dead, and we thought the Federation would imprison us forever." "No one gets left behind," Stone replied. "That's not who we are." But the real shock came when a group of alien civilians approached her. They were from a dozen different species, all looking nervous but determined. Captain Stone, their spokesman, said, "We want to thank you. Your people protected our families during the battle. The Federation told us humans were monsters, but you risked your lives to keep us safe. Word of what happened at Nexus Alpha spread across the galaxy faster than any military intelligence." the image of human soldiers protecting alien children while fighting Federation forces became the most powerful propaganda of the war. Suddenly, the Federation's claims about human savagery seemed hollow. More and more worlds began to question their loyalty to the Federation. Some species that had been members for centuries started sending secret delegations to human commanders. They were not offering military alliance, that would have been too dangerous, but they were offering something more valuable: information about Federation weaknesses and troop movements. Admiral Kane recognized the shift in galactic opinion and adapted his strategy accordingly. Instead of simply destroying Federation forces, he began offering terms to commanders who surrendered. Instead of occupying conquered worlds, he left them with guarantees of independence. Instead of demanding tribute, he offered trade agreements. "We are not here to conquer the galaxy," Kane announced in a broadcast that reached every civilized world. "We are here to ensure that no species can murder our leaders and threaten our families without consequences. When the Federation acknowledges its crimes and agrees to honor human sovereignty, this war will end." But the Federation leadership, humiliated by their defeats and facing rebellion among their own members, made a fateful decision. If they could not defeat humanity through conventional warfare, they would try something far more desperate. Chancellor Vraxt stood before the Federation Council with a proposal that would have horrified even his own people 6 months earlier. "The humans have proven they cannot be defeated by honorable combat," he said. "Therefore, we must use dishonorable means. I propose we target their homeworld directly. If we can destroy Earth itself, their resistance will collapse." The plan was monstrous in its simplicity. A massive Federation fleet would attack Earth while the human military was scattered across the galaxy. They would not try to occupy the planet. They would simply destroy it, killing billions of innocent people to break humanity's will to fight. But they had made one critical error. They still did not understand what they were truly fighting. They thought they were at war with humanity's government or its military or its colonies. They were actually at war with humanity's soul. And that soul could not be broken by any weapon in the galaxy. As the Federation's secret armada moved toward Earth, human intelligence networks, now supported by alien sympathizers throughout the galaxy, detected their approach. The greatest battle of the war was about to begin, and it would be fought in the space around humanity's birth world. The Federation's final armada was the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. 3,000 ships from every member species converged on the Sol system with one mission: destroy Earth and break humanity's will to fight forever. Chancellor Vraxt commanded the fleet from his flagship Divine Retribution, confident that this overwhelming force would succeed where subtlety had failed. Around him, the greatest military minds of 8 different species had planned what they called the final solution: the complete destruction of humanity's home world. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, "we are detecting human fleet movements throughout the galaxy. It appears they are aware of our approach." Vraxt was not concerned. Human intelligence had detected their fleet, but it was too late. Their forces were scattered across dozens of systems, fighting smaller battles throughout Federation space. Even if every human ship rushed back to Earth, they could not arrive in time to mount an effective defense. "Maintain course," Vraxt ordered. "By tomorrow, the human problem will be solved forever." But the Chancellor had made a crucial error in judgment. He understood human military tactics and human technology, but he had never understood the human heart. Admiral Kane stood on the bridge of the Retribution, watching as his scattered fleets raced toward Earth from every corner of the galaxy. His flagship was leading the nearest battle group, but they were still 18 hours away from Sol system, too far to arrive before the Federation fleet reached Earth. "Admiral," Commander Park reported. "We're receiving transmissions from Earth. Defense Command. The orbital platforms are ready, but they're estimating less than 12 hours before the Federation arrives." Kane nodded grimly. Earth's orbital defenses were powerful, but they had been designed to stop raiders and pirates, not a force of 3,000 warships. The planet's 50 million inhabitants were about to face the largest military assault in human history. But Earth was not defenseless. As news of the approaching Federation fleet spread across the planet, something extraordinary happened. Every nation, every city, every community united in a way not seen since the early days of human space exploration. President Cross addressed the world from the Emergency Command Center in Geneva. Her face was calm but determined as she spoke to 5 billion frightened people. "Citizens of Earth," she began, "our enemies believe they can break our spirit by threatening our home. They think that fear of death will make us surrender our freedom and our honor. They are wrong." Around the planet, people gathered in homes, schools, offices, and public squares to hear their leaders' words. 3 months ago, they murdered President Webb because they feared what humanity could become. Today, they come to murder all of us for the same reason, but they have made one fatal mistake. They think we fight for governments or territories or resources. We fight for each other. We fight for family. Dr. Torres had worked through the night to activate Earth's most secret defense system. Hidden deep beneath the Antarctic ice, the Genesis Array was humanity's most advanced weapon, a network of orbital cannons powered by the planet's core itself. It had been built in secret over 20 years, intended as a last resort against extinction-level threats. "Dr. Torres," President Cross asked, "what are our chances?" The weapons researcher looked exhausted, but determined. "Madam President, the Genesis Array can destroy any ship in the galaxy, but we only have enough power for 47 shots. They're bringing 3,000 ships. Then we make those 47 shots count," Cross replied. Throughout human space, desperate races were taking place. Captain Stone's fast attack group was pushing their engines beyond safe limits, trying to reach Earth before the massacre began. Commander Park's experimental squadron was attempting an untested hyperspace jump that might tear their ships apart. Every human fleet commander was making the same choice: risk everything to defend their home world. But they were not the only ones rushing toward Earth. The galaxy had been watching humanity's war against the Federation with growing interest. Many species had suffered under Federation rule for centuries, but had been too weak to resist. Now they saw an opportunity. The first surprise came from the Kethari Empire, an ancient civilization that had been forced into Federation membership 50 years earlier. Their ambassador appeared on Federation communication channels just as Vraxt's fleet entered the Sol system. "Chancellor Vraxt," the Kethari spoke in their musical language, "the Empire hereby withdraws from the Galactic Federation. Any attack on Earth will be considered an act of war against the Kethari people." Before Vraxt could respond, more messages flooded in. The Alterian Republic was declaring independence. The Zephyrian hives were renouncing their Federation membership. The Crystalline Collective was demanding immediate Federation withdrawal from their territory. "Sir," his communications officer reported nervously, "we're receiving similar messages from 17 different species. Half the galaxy is in revolt." But Vraxt was too committed to his plan to stop now. "Ignore them," he ordered. "Once Earth is destroyed, they will remember why they feared us in the first place." The Federation fleet entered the Sol system in perfect formation, their massive ships blotting out the stars. Earth's orbital platforms opened fire immediately, their particle beams and missile salvos striking the lead vessels. Several Federation ships were destroyed, but it was like throwing pebbles at an avalanche. Then the Genesis Array fired its first shot. The beam that erupted from Antarctica was brighter than the sun, a lance of pure energy that struck the Federation flagship Divine Retribution dead center. The massive dreadnought simply vanished, taking Chancellor Vraxt and his entire command staff with it. Across the Federation fleet, alien commanders stared in shock. No weapon in their experience could destroy a ship that quickly or completely. The Genesis array fired again, and again. Each shot vaporized a Federation capital ship, their most powerful vessels disappearing in brilliant flashes of light. But there were still thousands of enemy ships, and the array was rapidly running out of power. That was when the real miracle happened. Through hyperspace portals around the Sol system, human fleets began to arrive. Not just one or two battle groups, but every single human military unit in the galaxy. Captain Stone's raiders dropped out of hyperspace behind the Federation rearguard. Commander Park's experimental ships materialized in the middle of the enemy formation. Admiral Kane's main battle fleet emerged directly between the Federation forces and Earth. "All human forces," Kane's voice echoed across every comm channel. "This is Admiral Kane. Today we fight not for territory or resources, but for our home, for our families, for every human child who looks up at the stars and dreams of what we might become. Today we show the galaxy who we really are." The battle that followed would be remembered as the greatest space combat in galactic history. 3,000 Federation ships faced 800 human vessels in the space around Earth. The odds were still heavily against humanity, but now they were fighting in their home system with their backs against their own world. The Genesis array continued firing its remaining shots, each one destroying a Federation heavy cruiser. Human fighters swarmed through the enemy formation like angry bees, their pilots pushing their craft beyond all limits. Capital ships exchanged, volleys that lit up the space between Earth and Mars. But the most important moment came when Captain Stone's vengeance found itself facing the Federation's new flagship, the inevitable Victory. The alien commander challenged her to single combat, confident that his massive dreadnought could destroy her converted exploration ship. The duel lasted 20 minutes. When it ended, the inevitable Victory was a drifting wreck, and Captain Stone had proven that human courage could overcome any technological advantage. As the battle raged around Earth, something unprecedented happened. Ships began arriving from across the galaxy, not Federation forces, but vessels from the species that had declared independence. The Kethari brought their elegant cruisers. The Alterians contributed their fast attack craft. The Crystalline Collective sent their geometric vessels that moved like living things. They had come to fight alongside humanity against their former oppressors. The battle turned into a rout. Caught between human fury and alien rebellion, the Federation fleet began to collapse. Ships surrendered by the hundreds. Others fled into hyperspace, never to return to Federation space. When the guns finally fell silent, Earth hung in space, unmarked by war, surrounded by the wreckage of the galaxy's greatest fleet. Humanity had not just survived the Federation's attempt at genocide, they had broken the Federation's power forever. Admiral Kane addressed the combined fleet, human and alien ships together, as they orbited Earth in Victory formation. Today, the galaxy learned that no tyranny can stand forever. Today, we proved that freedom is stronger than fear, that justice is more powerful than oppression. President Webb died believing in a galaxy where all species could live in peace. Today, we made that dream possible. The war was over. The Galactic Federation would never recover from the loss of half their fleet and the rebellion of most of their member species. In its place, a new alliance would emerge. One based on mutual respect rather than fear, cooperation rather than domination.